She has some kind of trauma. When do book characters not? She is a half elf, not elf, half fae, gosh, pointy ears, you know. But I always have my sprayed edges. I hate this. It is definitely not for anyone. Hello my angels, welcome back to another video. My name is Ro and today we are doing my January wrap up. It's been a little while since I've done a proper just a wrap up. My December wrap up was a whole kind of year's wrap up, and then I didn't do a November one because I read like 2 books in November. So this is kind of the back to normal proper stuff to do with wrap ups this time around. And just before we get into the video, I do want to ask that you stick out till the end of this video because I have a brand new end screen and the art for it is by @LindaKnowsNothing on Twitter and Instagram. The little handle will be here. I just wanted to point that out before we get into the video because I'm really happy with it and I feel like everyone should go follow here. Okay, so in the month of January I did have a bit of a reading slump. I didn't manage to read kind of in the week running up to TBRPG-a-thon because I was too busy prepping for TBRPG-a-thon, and then during TBRPG-a-thon I had some stuff left over that I needed to do for TBRPG-a-thon. So most of my reading actually did happen kind of after TBRPG or towards like the end of TBRPG, but I did end up reading 7 books this month and that was for a total of 2,492 pages. Now this is a little bit less than I would have liked, just in general to be honest. I think I was just in a bit of a slump. I was waiting for those exam results. If you remember the exams near the beginning of December, they were professional level, which means they're a bit harder and it takes about 6 weeks to get the results. I did end up passing both. Yay! And I was very relieved when I got the results, but I didn't actually get those results till the 21st, which was near the end of TBRPG-a-thon. So essentially my own readathon fucked me up this month, but I am so happy and so glad that everyone enjoyed, and it was definitely worth the stress. I guess it wasn't really stress, but worth the work that went into it. And keep an eye out on Saturday because we will be doing these stats for TBRPG-a-thon. That is the video going up on Saturday, so keep an eye out for that. So to get into the breakdown, I ended up reading 4 physical books, 1 audiobook and 2 ebooks. First one I'm going to talk about was a bit of a mix. I did read 1 book half kind of physical and half audiobook, but I don't really track that kind of thing. I do put a little M next to it in my journal, but I don't track it on my core pile because it's actually really hard to try and keep up with how many hours you've listened versus pages you've read. That's a bit too high level for me. I'm not really into that kind of stats. It's a bit much for me. But if we dive right in, the first book that I read in January was Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson. This is the Fairy Loot edition, which I do really like. I remember everyone saying, like, if you notice, from here to here, like this side is way more prominent and that side's faded. And I remember seeing in groups on Facebook, people weren't sure if that was meant to be that way, but it seems like everyone's copies are that way, so maybe it's on purpose, but people weren't sure. But this is a very nice edition. I do really like naked hardbacks, and the foiling is not, I wouldn't say the greatest, especially compared to last week's Illumicrate. I'm gonna hold it up again, so spoilers for Illumicrate. This one as a naked hardback versus this seems very plain, I feel. Regardless, I actually listened to this on audio because it was on Scribd. I gave it 2 stars. This was not the best. I don't think I go into it in any vlog, so I'm kind of gonna have to get into it here, but basically it was just not good. I can't even form coherent thoughts. This is about a girl who lives in a convent, so she's a nun, but like she's more of like a novice rather than like a full nun because she's young. She has some kind of trauma. When do book characters not? But she has some kind of trauma from like a fire demon. The whole world is made up of like demons and things. There are kind of these relic things that could be like a necklace or something, or like a piece of finger from like an old ancient thing or something that like revenants and spirits and stuff can reside in. And the nuns / the monks as well, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know, can like use that as a source of power. This guy comes along, this monk, and he says, he's like testing the novices to see if they have like an affinity for it. She very obviously does, but she kind of gets out of being it. She doesn't want to be it kind of thing. In the end, she ends up channeling a certain revenant that's like in her mind the whole time. Now, the banter and kind of relationship between her and the Revenant that was like in her head, I thought was very good. I actually really liked the back and forth. The Revenant like sort of starting to care for her kind of thing was too rushed. It's not believable. I don't think it's meant to be an evil spirit, but I did like the banter and like it telling her off and telling her to like eat properly and stuff. Things like that. I like that relationship, but the rest of it just completely falls apart. I said to someone, the plot of this is like a really cheesy first time D&D adventure. It's like, oh, there's a puzzle or something's gone wrong or someone's died. Let's go look for rumors. Now you get the rumors and then you go investigate and then you get small clues and stuff along the way. And then you fight a big thing at the end. Like, it was very D&D, but like not good D&D. The characters felt very 2D. I did not care about her friend or whatever. I thought she was very annoying and did nothing with the story. There is no love interest, so to speak. No, there's not, but there's like some guy doing something at some point. And then it's like she suspects this man and like it's very obvious like it's not gonna be him because it's so focused on it being him and stuff like that. And it's just very mediocre plotting. Again, this happens with Margaret Rogerson with me, with all 3 of her books that I've read, which I think are the only 3 that she's written or have been published. The world is like a really good idea. Like, she has really good ideas and unique ideas for worlds, such as the fairy world in Enchantment of Ravens, or like the books in the libraries having spirits or being alive in Sorcery of Thorns. And the same with this. I like the idea of like revenants and like there being like a hierarchy of revenants and stuff, or spirits, but like the execution of the characters and the plot is just so lackluster. I felt like there was no point in reading this. This felt like a very nothing book. Like, it wasn't even a 2.5. Like, it wasn't straight down the middle like meh, maybe someone will like it. This is like, I would not recommend this to anyone. Sometimes if it's a 2.5, I can see why someone would like it and I'd go, oh, I think you would like it specifically because of this. This is just, I think, in my opinion, just not very well done. I think it's very weird that, you know, her writing, I thought Sorcery of Thorns was pretty good. I thought the plot wasn't the best, but like the characters at least I cared about. This one, I did not give a single shit about anything going on. The narrator was fine, and sometimes a narrator can make or break a book, but usually I give up on it very early if I don't like the narrator, and then I just switch to physical, which I would have done if I didn't like the narrator, but I did like her. I didn't think she was doing anything groundbreaking, but, you know, she was fine. She did exactly the same voice and accent for like every character, but like her actual intonation and like pace and everything was fine. This was not good. And it was my first read of the year, so that was very disappointing. My first read of the year was a 2-star, but I'm trying to be a bit more brutal this year and like DNFing when I don't want to read something, or at least rating lower than I usually would have, and really thinking about it when I put it into Corpile. I've been using like half ratings in Corpile now again, and in the brand new Corpile as well, there is an option for half stars. It comes out at the end, so I'm really pleased with that. It's really helping me to like hone in on my reviews as well. Yeah, Vespertine, not good. However, when I moved on this month to House of Earth and Blood, lovely Waterstones edition, I gave this 5 stars. This is my first 5-star of the year. It really brought me out of my, oh my god, why is the start of the year giving me a 2-star book? It went straight from one end of the scale to the other with a 5 stars with this. This really, really surprised me. So in my planner, there are some reading kind of challenges, and Megan, who does the planner, she like makes up her own ones. So like one of the prompts actually this year is a book that surprised you. And I chose this one because Sarah J Maas to me is always going to be universally loved, right? A lot of people like her books. A lot of people, I think, are likely to rate her books 5 stars, especially the newer ones coming out. I feel like after leaning into adult, she's maybe like finding her niche and like writing better than ever. I liked ACOTAR when I was 18. I think when I rated the original trilogy, it was 4.53. So I didn't like it, the third one as much as the others, but I still really loved the second one in particular. I think her mental health rep in that one and in this is very good. I think she does very well at doing mental health rep, in this particularly PTSD. And oh my god, I was not expecting this. And in fact, up to maybe page 500 or 550 out of 800, this is an 800 page book, this was sitting at a 4-star. I thought it was really solid. I actually really cared about the characters kind of from page 1. Bryce Quinlan, Oh my god, that is the main character in this, if you don't know. She is a half elf, not elf, half fae, gosh, pointy ears, you know. She's a half fae woman who like is basically a party girl, and basically there's some murders have gone on and they think they lock up the guy who did it, but 2 years later the murders start happening again, and then Bryce gets kind of dragged into the investigation. So I also would not recommend reading the synopsis of this book directly before reading it, because there are, I think, and a lot of people think, spoilers. I went into this completely blind, having not read the synopsis, and I think it definitely affected the 5-star rating, like definitely boosted it. So I would recommend that if you have not heard of this or don't know anything that happens. I sobbed for the last 200 pages. Sorry, my mouth was open and on the floor from page 600 to 700, and then from page 700 to 800 I sobbed continuously. I just loved it. I ate this shit up. I just thought it was really good. I'm just very, very happy with how it turned out. Very happy with the ending. Very intrigued for the sequel, which obviously is coming out in February, and it's going to put a dent in my February TBR. Let's just say that now. I don't really know what to say. I said this in a tweet. I think I really summed this up well in a tweet. It's like, could this have been shorter? Yes. Was there a bit in the middle that dragged a bit? Yes. Is there a kind of, at the beginning, quite info dumpy? Yes. However, I feel the ending would not have had as much of an impact as it did if the kind of time that we had spent with the characters hadn't happened. So overall, this was kind of no question a 5-star for me. And I would recommend it even if you didn't like ACOTAR, even if you didn't like Throne of Glass. I'd recommend you give this one a go. Next up, I read the Fairy December book, and that was Year of the Reaper by Makia Lucier. Now this had a very, very boring synopsis when I unboxed it last month. This guy disappeared 3 years ago on a war, on a mission entrusted to him by the king, and since then plague has swept the land. In the author's note, it does say that she wrote the book before COVID happened. Just out of curiosity, if you are curious. He comes home after 3 years being imprisoned, and the king and everyone's taken over his keep, and he's like, what the fuck? And then an assassin targets those closest to the queen, and there's blah, 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 there's a mystery. I gave this 2 stars. So it wasn't going well for me in January. It was 252. This was really boring. The only interesting thing about this was the fact that the main character could see ghosts. This is not a spoiler. It happens on literally page 1. I don't know why it's not in the synopsis, but I can tell you why it's not in the synopsis, because it's not relevant to any of the book. It does not make any sense why he can see ghosts. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't happen. Nothing happens with it. It doesn't help him. It doesn't hinder him. It's just there. Like, it just happens and everyone's okay with it and he's just ignoring it. And this is a fucking standalone. This book is 312 pages long. This is basically a novella and it's just nothing. It is just nothing. Again, it's kind of similar to Vespertine. It's just a very, very mediocre plot, very typical plot for a fantasy, and it's just thrown into like a medieval world where there was a plague. It's like, I don't get what this book was about. What are the themes of this book? What were the characters' goals? What did they want? Who are these characters? Why should I care about them? I had none of this in this book. I don't know why Fairyloot chose this. It's not very good. It's just so meh. Like aggressively mediocre is what I would describe this and Vespertine. And I don't tend to give out 1 stars. 1 stars are for like, I hate this. It is definitely not for anyone. The actual writing is awful and this and that. This writing wasn't that bad, I'd say. It's just like everything else was just not good. Like, it's not good, but it's not like really bad. So that's what a 1 star would be, or a DNF is a 1 star. So this is a 2 star. A 2.5 if you argue that's what it came out as on Core was 2.5, and Vespertine came out as 2. So I think Vespertine was worse than this, but again, this was just nothing. This was just like a chapter of Game of Thrones, you know? Like, it was just, it was not anything. I don't really have anything else to say. You will get a few more thoughts on this and on the one I'm about to talk about next, Marvelous Light, in my book box battle vlog, which is coming out next week sometime, where I read all of the books from all my sub boxes and compare them, and also compare the items that came in the boxes. So you will see that next week. But first of all, let's talk about A Marvelous Light. This is the beautiful Illumicrate edition with like the weird plastic cover, which some people fucking hate and some people really like. I'm not mad at it. I think it's a cool idea. I don't like the feel of it. I wouldn't keep it on when reading. Oh, but also just looking at that, like that's gorgeous. I wouldn't keep it on when reading, but a lot of people don't keep their desk jacket on when reading anyway. I did say if it's out this way on a shelf, I think it would look weird, but I always have my sprayed edges out, face out like this. So for me, it doesn't actually matter because you can't see any of the shiny plastic when it's on the shelf like that. This was a 4.75, 4.5, like super, super, super close to a 5. But you guys know me, if I even hesitate for 1 second on giving something 5 stars, then it's not. Like, I'm quite savage in that way. Like, if I have to think about it for even a second, if I even doubt it, I go, no, it's not 5 stars then. But this was very close. This is, I'd say, very much more a romance. I'd say this is a historical romance with like a fantasy background, or fantasy world, set in a fantasy world. It's a normal Edwardian historical romance about 2 guys. Robin gets kind of given a new job in, I was gonna say HR, but kind of just in the government. It's a government given job. He gets kind of forced into it. He turns up and basically he discovers magic exists, and he's been forced into a role which is kind of magical liaison, kind of similar to like Ministry of Magic type stuff or misuse of Muggle artifacts type stuff in Harry Potter. Sorry to mention She Who Must Not Be Named, but kind of like that basically. If anything is like too big in the news in like the real world, then he has to go investigate it and be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're gonna unearth magic to everyone kind of thing. This is a very, very unique world, a very, very unique way of looking at magic. I liked the way that they, basically the way you have to cast spells is doing like a cat's cradle, which I think is very interesting and like very cool idea. The other main character, Edwin, he is kind of 1 person higher than Robin. So Robin makes the reports and Edwin kind of does stuff like adjacent to him. So the main guy who used to work as this has gone missing, so Robin got forced into the role. It is, I'd say, a mystery. I'd say it is a mystery, and the plot of the mystery, I'd say, isn't maybe the most sophisticated, but the characterization of this is incredible, and the sex scenes are really good. There are no less than 3 sex scenes in this book, and I really like casual mention of sex in adult books. I feel like it's not done enough. I feel like you either get smut romance or you get fantasy with like bad sex scenes or like not very intimate sex scenes, or it's just like, oh, it happened kind of thing. I really like to have a mix of both, and I feel like I haven't experienced it before now before this book. If anyone has any recommendations for that, you know, like say if we had, let's say House of Earth and Blood, but we actually had a proper sex scene where it was like described properly and done properly and intimate and stuff. Don't know if the sequel's gonna have that, but I think you guys know what I mean. And I personally really like that and really enjoy it, and I think that's why this got such a high rating. I think it was very well done. I think it was very well balanced, and the kind of angst between the 2 main characters is really good as well. The mystery, again, not the best, but the world building and like the idea is fucking great. And I'm very excited for the sequel because the sequel is going to be Sapphic. Sapphics are winning, and it's about the main Robin's sister. So this one has a number 1 on it. I think the sequel is not, I don't know if it's a direct sequel or if it's like a companion jumping around thing, because Robin and Edwin in this mystery are very quite entrenched in this mystery. I don't know how much of a role they're going to have in the sequel because it's set on a ship. I don't know if they're going to be on the ship, but we'll see. We shall see. I'm very excited and I would highly recommend this. And again, you'll be seeing more thoughts in the vlog next week. The last 3 books I'm going to talk to you about are actually romance. So I am foraying into romance. I am really kind of finding my groove with, you know, cleansing my palette between fantasy books with a couple of romances, and it's gone well for me this month. So I'm hoping to continue that into the rest of the year into February, etc. But I actually 5-starred my first romance this month, and that was It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This is so good. Again, I have actually spoken about this in my vlog in depth, but this was a 5 stars. This is grumpy sunshine trope. It's kind of rich girl, inspired by Schitt's Creek, kind of rich girl, spoilt girl, coming to a small town in Seattle, Washington, or maybe near, oh sorry, it's Westport is where they are, but Seattle is like an hour away, like near Seattle. This was gifted to me by Kendra, and I love Kendra. Basically, this is like spoilt girl versus rough fisherman. The sex scenes are amazing. I would say Tessa Bailey's probably one of my favorites now for sex scenes. I think she does it really well. She has like a really good mix of like kinky versus hot slash intimate slash romantic, and I think it's done so well. And again, I'm gonna mention it now, but I did read another one by her, and that was Fix Her Up. This one actually got 3 stars, 3.5 stars if we're, you know, being specific. I didn't like the trope as much in this one. It was like brother's best friend growing up had a crush on him, which I find icky personally, but whatever. Obviously they're both consenting adults in this, but it's fine. And he's like a baseball star. It's like not really my type kind of thing, whereas gruff fisherman with lots of muscles is my type. And a beard. I'm still gonna continue with this one because I think some people like the third one the most or something. Like I'll continue with the, it's not really series, it's more like a series of companion novels, kind of like how most romance is these days. But yeah, Tessa Bailey is definitely solidifying herself as like a favorite kind of romance author. Definitely gonna be getting the sequel to this. It's out on like 14th of April or something, which is Hook, Line and Sinker. Will be getting that immediately. And yeah, I just really felt for Piper, who's the main character in this. I thought she was very believable. I thought she was very real and very emotional, and I just got quite emotional at some bits in this, whereas I didn't get emotional at all in this. I enjoyed the smut because Tessa Bailey is a goddess at writing smut, but this was like not as good for me. But I think it was just because of the trope, and I actually really didn't like the main character. I thought she was really annoying, and I didn't really believe that they so quickly got together kind of thing. And also I thought it was going to be about him fixing her house because it's Fixed Her Up, but not a lot of that happens. Basically none of that happens, like one thing happens. So that's kind of a 2-in-1 deal there. And then the last book that I read was actually a Kindle Unlimited smut book, and it's called Morning Glory Milking Farm. Yes, you did hear correctly. I don't like to go into detail on my Kindle Unlimited smut stuff in each of my wrap-ups. I've only been doing this for 1 year. If you are interested in that, I do actually do a kind of yearly review because I don't read a lot of smut. I might do a 6-month review if I end up reading a lot this year, a lot more this year than last year, but this is just a monster romance with like it's kind of like half human, half Minotaur type stuff, and it's like a modern world where there's like fauns and centaurs and stuff are like mixed in with humans and elves and things like that. And I liked the setting. I thought the smut was alright. I thought it was fine. Could have been more, considering it's a Kindle Unlimited smut book. And that's all I'm gonna say on that. I'm not gonna go into depth on this video. All in all, I think like a pretty good reading month. I'm actually really happy. Would have liked to read more, but I feel like I say that every month. I'm actually really happy with the amount I'm kind of branching out with my reading in terms of genre. And I am also happy with the amount of physical books I read. Over half of my books that I read were physical. I think I did pretty well. Overall then, in January, even though I did have 2 5 stars, I do have to give the favourite of the month to A House of Earth and Blood. So if you did like this video, please do give it a like below. Leave me a little crescent emoji if you were here but you didn't have anything to say but wanted to let me know that you were here. Make sure you subscribe to get all the future content from me in your inbox. All of my links are in the description, including my Patreon. And if you don't know what goes on my Patreon, then this is what you're missing out on.
I hope that you know nothing about Greek mythology. It makes my Percy Jackson heart sad.
Speaking of my Patreon, I want to give a huge shout out to everyone at my deity tier. So that is Becca, Meg, Rachel, Lisa, Lydia, Mercy, Sarah, Tori, Liv, Adinda, Celeste, Britt, Marloose, Kay, Danny, Hannah, William, Chris, Andy, Lauren, Kate, Kendra, Ashley, KW, Lynn, Frog, Amy, Rye, Jenny, and Hattie. Thank you guys so much for all of your support, and I'll see you in another video. Bye!